Hi, I'm Jack Durish, and besides being a storyteller, I'm a problem solver. Now, I could sit here and tell you stories about problems I've solved, and we'd be here a lot longer than you'd care to listen to, and I would never get to my point. So you just have to take my word for it now. I'm a problem solver. We'll get to the stories another time. What I really want to do right now is talk to you about step one. Now, I've seen a lot of people try to solve problems with never going through step one. They skip right over it. And it seems that it happens universally, especially in Congress. They just don't want to take the time for step one. Okay, don't worry. I'm not going to keep you in suspense any longer. Let's talk about what is step one. It's very simple. Step one in solving any problem is defining what is the problem. What are we trying to do here? What are we trying to fix? That sounds absurdly simple, doesn't it? But honest to God, I have sat in countless meetings with military leaders, business leaders, government leaders, and whenever people sit around arguing over, well, what should we do next? How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to fix the situation? I've sat back at some point and I've said, excuse me, I have a question. Could somebody please tell me what is the problem? What are we trying to fix here? What are we trying to do? And there's always someone who'll sit back and say, Jack, you're stupid. We all know what the problem is. Haven't you been listening? And I'll say, well, I thought I was, but please go ahead and tell me, what is the problem? And they'll explain it, being nice fellows they are. And as soon as they're done explaining the problem, someone on the other side of the table will say, no, that's not what we're trying to do here. That's not the problem. Then there's a new argument. Let me give you a case in point. The Affordable Health Care Act. That's a classic. You look at that solution and you can tell right away they did not have a clear idea what the problem was they were trying to fix. Now, what could it be? Now, I have a kind of funny insight into this one because, to tell you the truth, this was the topic of debate when I was a college freshman back in 1960. Yeah, all the way back then, we were talking about health care. And we were debating about having a nationalized system or a private system, which is what we already had, of course. I took a funny stance of, we should just fix the system we have. After all, what is the problem? Do we have a problem with the healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, technicians? Do we have a problem with the administrators, hospital administrators, and the like? Do we have a problem with paying for health care? Now, in truth, we had a problem in how we pay for health care. But the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, it took on everything. Now, I've heard arguments that, no, Jack, no, that's not the issue. They knew what they were doing. Obamacare was not about health care. It was about power. Dr. Ben Carson has been arguing this point. It's about taking control. And ultimately, yes, that's what's happening. The government is going to end up with control of everything. And then there's going to be a whole slew of new problems to cope with. But for the moment, if you sit back and accept my premise, you see that there's no nefarious conspiracy going on behind this thing. It's just strictly incompetence. We had a bunch of people in Congress who just don't know how to solve problems, or at least they don't know step one. And they run off and try and fix the world instead of what needs fixing. So there you have it, step one. And I'm telling you, if you take step one, every time you're faced with a problem, you have something to fix, You can't go wrong. Look at it. Doctors use it. What's the first thing they begin with? A diagnosis. You take your car to the mechanic. Something's wrong. What's the problem? You go to a lawyer. What's the problem? If they don't start with that question, you're wasting your time. Now here's something you can practice on. Take this new problem-solving technique and let's practice it. We have a problem. Our country is in pretty bad shape. Now answer this question. What's really the problem? What is the root cause? If we can decide on that, then we can fix it. But if we run off willy-nilly, letting our ideology guide us, it's all the Democrats' fault, it's all the Republicans' fault, it's conservatives, it's progressives, the Tea Party, you name it, it's the media, it's Hollywood, you're not going to solve anything. No, you got to sit back and you got to ask yourself the question, what's the problem here?